Welcome to the Strong Talk podcast. I'm Kalle Beck. I'm joined by Jonny Lieberman, automotive journalist extraordinaire, also strongman fan.
Yes.
Worked with Motor Trend. I used to watch you on Head to Head, Inevitable podcast. You're on everything. You want to do another podcast, huh?
Spike's Car Radio. Dude, I gotta tell
Yeah.
you, it's nice to do a podcast that's not about cars. You don't know, like I'm so nervous about this. I do three car podcasts a week and give them no thought. I've been like scribbling notes in a journal all morning. I'm stoked. And I gotta tell you, it's for like I don't even know how long since college. People say like, "What's your favorite sport?" And I always say, "Well, I'll say football, but it's really strongman." But nobody knew what it was because I've just been like just a mega fan of. I mean, really, it was World's Strongest Man back in the day. Just I started watching like in the Magnus for Magnuson era, even before that. But when I started really paying attention, it was like the Magnus era, and then Pujanowski, and I've just been in love with the sport forever. And so yeah, I'm so excited how popular it's gotten and getting, and I want it to continue to grow, and I want everyone to check it out, and it's great.
Yeah,
So
that's always been my mission with, I made a website Starting Strongman to get like information to people, when like I started that in like 2012.
mhm.
Which like Strongman was way smaller back then. It's really I think the growth's been like the last especially 5 years, but there's a lot of stuff that before that. But I think it's funny how you said you're so excited to not talk about cars
Yeah.
because I'm someone who does like strongman media and stuff, but what I want to do is talk about cars, and I know you're someone who does cars and would want to talk about strongman. So I feel like it'd be
It's just, I mean, I gotta tell you, it's like I have no friends that are into strongman. I had a cameraman, um, who would shoot. I think he would shoot like the Shaw Classic, and shoot like the Rogue Invitational. So he
hmm,
wasn't necessarily a fan, but at least if I said, you know, Maxime Boudreau, he knew who I was talking about. You know what I mean?
sure.
Like, I have no one can even relate to what I'm thinking about a large portion of the time.
All
So
right. Well,
it's
if you ever have inside questions, you can let me know, and I'll
um
be happy to answer them.
yeah, I don't have too many. I mean, I used to be before he became like, the superstar that he is. Like I was just an early fan of Mitch Hooper. Like I remember just seeing him in the World's Strongest Man when he like just he beat Brian Shaw in the group stage, and I just started like DMing this guy like, bro, like this is insane. And so he used to give me all this like inside dirt. It was pretty funny. But he's obviously much busier these days. So, but
Yeah,
yes, I will now I know who to talk to. So this will be good.
it's it's fun to see, especially when you're in a fan and you see someone just come out of nowhere. Like
Hmm.
that's how like it felt like Pujanowski was like in the early 2000s. He's just like he was like an outsider, and then second year just winning, and it's kind of that's the way I equate Mitch to the most. In that where it's like he doesn't seem quite like everyone else. He didn't like come through the circuit.
Right.
And he was just like he used to run marathons, and he did some powerlifting and did like three strongman meets, and he's like in the finals at Worlds basically, and
Yeah, it was it
kind
was
of
it was crazy. I mean, look, he got to Worlds because he pulled 475 kilograms on a deadlift. So he's
yeah.
a strong guy. They like somebody knew about him. But yeah, no, I mean, I remember. I mean, I still there's this mostly with strangers online, but like greatest strongman of all time. And I know I'm wrong, but I still say Pujanowski just because I remember some of those competitions where he was, he'd win by like 30 points. You know what I mean? Like, he was so he just had an extra gear. He was so ahead of everyone else he was competing with. And and I know he never won the Arnold. I know all the knocks on him. But back then, I didn't know what the Arnold was. I just knew World's Strongest Man, and like he just crushed it, just crushed it. And he won it 5 times, which no one else has ever done. So I still have a
Yeah.
dog in the fight. But
Yeah, that's why he's called the Dominator. And
yeah.
unless you're like a crazy strongman fan and you watch like the If So where and they're like in like some, yeah, he would seem like that. But and he was because I do think he from like the hardcore fans he gets way too he does not get enough recognition
Yeah.
because like yeah there was more medleys and they were a little lighter and more endurance based back then, but that's what the sport was. That's what he
And
trained for.
and it's not powerlifting. It's
No,
not like it's not, necessarily who can deadlift the most. Even though if you go back and watch the competitions, he did great on the deadlift.
he'd still win them
Yeah,
or get
he never
second.
yeah, he never like he didn't like zero or anything. And back then the deadlifts were always like the rising keg deadlifts. And he'd do great, like yeah, he would be like third or something, but then he would like I don't know. I think Farmer's Walk is like it has to be in every strongman competition. I love Farmer's Walk, and he would win by 20 meters. Like it was there was nothing like
Yeah,
him.
it'd
And
be
power
interesting
stairs,
if
you
they did
know.
like max distance farmers again like that because they don't really do too many stuff like that anymore. It would really
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was so
So,
good. I saw him compete like when I was like early 20s at Venice Beach. They had like a super series there, and he lost to Phil Pfister. Or no, or was it Jesse Marunde beat him? Yeah, it was Jesse Marunde. It was the year after Phil beat him at Worlds.
right.
But yeah, he's again like I remember like, and I also went to like the Worlds like 2012 or something, or no, 2008. They had it down in like LA.
Oh yeah, yeah. Commerce, yeah.
Yeah, and like and it's just like there's everybody, and then Pujanowski's over here. He was kind of like, I think he was like so good that like he wasn't really in the mix. Like he was the only one that acted like a celebrity. You know what I mean? Like everyone else are like people,
Yeah.
which I
I've
thought
I've
was kind of
heard
fun.
I've heard he wasn't well liked.
No,
I heard
yeah,
that
that's just
others,
basically what I was saying.
yeah.
Like he
I
was the
heard
only
other,
person who wouldn't talk to me as like a 21-year-old fan. You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
Yeah, yeah,
he's,
yeah.
but
Did you ever see his music
oh
videos?
yeah, he was on like Dancing
Unbelievable.
with the Stars in Poland and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. He's like a pop star. He's like a Robin Thicke style pop star in
Yeah, him and
Poland.
his brother. Like
Oh,
they
I
were
didn't know that. Oh,
that
that's
was like
cool.
you look. There's like a and when we're at Worlds, there's like all these people that are all like way more like I trained as hard as and I got like a certain level of jack. They're all like way more jacked than me,
Sure.
but like small, and they all kind of look like him. It's just his whole family. Like his dad's like 70 and just like just like these big old veiny arms, but not 140 kilos or whatever, but like
Yeah.
normal size. But you can tell like he's got genetics, like clearly, like
Yeah.
missing a
He was.
myostatin gene or whatever it is, was able to
Yeah. I
just
mean, he was just a force of nature. I mean, I just remember, there was it was he was I thought he was so exciting because he not that he was like small, that's not the word you want to use, but he wasn't like a big dude in terms he didn't have a lot of body fat, and he was just stronger than everybody, and it
yeah.
was it was crazy. And
He wasn't
shorter.
the prototypical strongman
No.
build where it's kind of stocky, a little husky, especially back then. He had like a full X-ray, like in person. Is a like I've went to all the bodybuilding shows, Arnold, and seen I've been backstage at the Arnold, and like everyone's getting ready to pose, and like I still feel like Pujanowski's the freakiest looking person I've seen in real life.
The-
Like
back
the
back in the
density.
Back in the day, yeah, I would love to see him. I'd love to see these two together. Back in the day, I was wandering through the Vegas airport, and like at his prime, Jay Cutler was walking past me,
Yeah,
and it was just such a freaky thing. Like he had on like the Oakley blades and like a stringy tank top, and he's this wide, and he's just smiling because he's just so much bigger than it was bizarre. It was just really, really bizarre to see in person. Um, and I don't
yeah.
I don't know, I bet Pujanowski was actually bigger because Cutler was probably like my height, like 5'10.
He like if you go back at Worlds, it's one of the funny things about Worlds is that it's a TV show. It's a
Yeah.
TV show, not
Yeah.
really a TV show first. So like if you go back, he's listed at so many different heights throughout the years.
Like a
Like he kept
football
getting
player.
taller as he got more popular.
Right.
So like
Right.
I think at one point he was listed at like 6'2", but he wasn't. No, I think he was like 5'11". Like
Okay. Yeah.
like he
Okay.
was so he's pretty
Cutler.
similar to Cutler, really. Like
Yeah.
maybe
He
six
was
foot.
this would have been like God, this would have been like 2002 Cutler,
Yeah,
just
prime.
massive. Like I've just never seen a human being that m- muscular with that little fat. I've seen probably, I've seen, I've met like Martins, like he's, gigantic, but
Sure.
he's, got some kind of fit, kind of fat, as the t-shirt says.
Yeah,
But Cutler was just like, it was just freaky to see him in public, and like not on stage, like just like wandering through an airport. It was like, what the?
yeah, around normal people.
Yeah, and then like 20 feet behind him was Muhammad Ali being pushed in a wheelchair, and I was just like, what is happening? Like, this is
Just the
so.
Vegas airport, right? You never
It
know.
just, yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So,
So when you're, one thing I always like to do is talk about like how people kind of got introduced into the sport or something. And you kind of said that like you used to just watch like the worlds, but like were you always interested in strength as a kid or?
yeah, it's one of those things that I don't want to say it's a regret, but like I've always been able to be really strong. Like the first day I tried squatting, and again, these weren't full depth squats, but I got up to 225 pounds when I was like 13 or 14. It was the summer before freshman year in high school. I was friends with the coach's son, and he brought us in the summer to work out, and I could just put a ton of weight on my back for some reason. So like I've always been like a very poor deadlifter, but like or it's not sorry, bench presser, but squats and deadlift just kind of like naturally can move a lot of weight. You know what I mean? And there's been various times in my life where I will get very, very strong, and then I'll just stop, and I don't know why. I wish I would have been consistent. Um, but just I don't know, like it's one of those things. Like if you're kind of okay at something, like being strong, like, oh my God, there's a TV show where here's the strongest guy. It's like they're picking up stuff. You like to pick up stuff, and I just always was drawn to World's Strongest Man. I just thought it was fascinating. And then like yeah, when I was in college, I don't even know how I watched it, but there was like a marathon of like the I don't know, Prime Magnus for Magnuson. It was like just they did like it was like a compilation of like World's Strongest Man's about him. And I just could not believe this guy, who again wasn't I mean, I guess he was kind of like in the Phil Fister mold, but he was like tall and strong, but just like stronger than everybody else for some reason. Like, you know what I mean? He would win the squat. He was this tall guy who wasn't that thick, but so I was just fascinated by that, and then I just started really paying attention to it. Like, oh, this is a thing that's every year. I didn't understand that there was like seasons, and then I figured that out when I was in college, and then yeah, just since Pujanowski into the Big Z era, I just have been obsessed. And then oh, there's this thing, the Arnold, and then all the other events came and Giants Live, and um, I went to my first show. I went to the Deadlift World Championships in Vegas
Oh, cool.
this past year, which was awesome. I turned 50 in May, so my wife said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want VIP tickets to World's Strongest Man." So going up to Sacramento in May. Um, and yeah, what's nice is everyone's got a YouTube channel. It's all over social media. So I spend way too much time just watching these, big idiots pick stuff up. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
fun.
it's definitely you can definitely follow it a lot better now. It's pretty cool. I don't think people realize it. Like basically like what I did, and it's kind of been obsolete, like with the website I did is I just compile it all because it was nowhere and I put it
Yeah.
like, oh, here's who did this, here's who did that. And now it's like it took them like 10 years, but all the athletes figured they could just do that and actually like
Right,
make
right,
their own money. So I'm like,
right.
I don't really have anything to do anymore, but I'm glad that they figured. I remember like I was like, when I was competing, we'd be at like the pro-ams, like amateur level, because I compete as a lightweight, so it's like different. So you're still with these people before they turn pro, and I'm like eating lunch with like Dimitar, and I'm like, Dimitar, start a YouTube channel. Like I tell them all of them, like
Right, right,
and
right.
it's cool to see that they're doing it all now because it's just I just always thought I'm like if people see it like people everyone has been like hung over and watched a World's Strongest Man marathon. Everyone like roughly our age.
Yeah.
I'm about to turn 40, so they've all done that. So if then you go, oh, this is actually a thing, those people that would watch 8 hours of strongman are gonna follow
Yeah.
someone and watch their YouTube videos.
Yeah,
It's
and then you had some real breakouts, like like with Thor being in Game of Thrones, and Eddie Hall being Eddie Hall, and
yeah,
Ryan Shaw just being just huge in a lot of ways. It sort of uh, I don't know, caught some, not the public's imagination, but some part of the collective consciousness, and I think like the Strongest Man in history, I think helped a little bit because those clips were just everywhere because because of social media. I don't know if anyone actually like, watched the show on History Channel, but we've all seen the clips pop up. So yeah, it's I think it's cool that it's everywhere, and I'm excited. Not only that it's growing, but it seems to be growing well. Like we're about to get into the Arnolds, but like many new faces, and some of them like are pretty legit, so it's great. It's not just like, oh, he's a new guy who's going to be good in a few years. It's like, here's a new guy like like Andrade or Lucas Hatton. I know Hatton's been around for a while, but like they're going to compete. Like Hatton probably going to be on the podium. Like
Yeah, good
he's
chance.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, there's a lot of momentum like 2016 to 20. A lot of different all of the stuff kind of finally like it like almost it wouldn't come together and then it finally did. Like, I was at like the Eddie Hall had his documentary. I went to the premiere of that, the Arnold, and like everyone was there. And I'm like, that's when it like there was like people actually putting like real media and talking to, Oberst and stuff about like the strongest man in history
Mhm.
is like the people that watched it is like he goes to the grocery store and it's like grandmas, like all like the older normal people then know about
Yeah,
it and follow him. So
yeah,
it was like it's still got like people,
yeah.
but like not. It was just a whole different demographic that are like, oh, I'm gonna now watch Brian on YouTube or tell my kid about it or whatever.
And that's why, like Eddie and Brian and Oberst, and Nick Best and all that, they're so important because, here's the thing you forget, like we're talking about Magnus Ver Magnussen, Icelandic, and Pujanowski, Polish, who never really learned English, and Big Z, Lithuanian, who still really doesn't speak English. And so there's no way to
Yeah,
like get the American consumer behind that because we don't speak
no,
any other languages. We're
yeah, I've
idiots.
interviewed them. It's tough.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know what I mean.
yeah,
Because I'd love to know what Big Z was thinking, but it was always like, yes, that was heavy. Thank you very much. That was like the sum total of winning, his fourth World's Strongest Man. And so when you had, very camera ready, media savvy, photogenic for what they are, guys like Eddie Hall and Shaw and all them, like that, I think also helped a lot. To
yeah.
kind of bring it away from Eastern Europe. Not that Iceland's in Eastern Europe, but you know what I mean. Like it just sort of like something Americans could actually pay attention to.
Yeah, I
Um,
think having a lot of, you know, British and American talent helped a lot. Other than like there's like Phil Fister won, then like when like, it's just like that helped, but it wasn't the same thing. It
yeah,
wasn't quite the right
and again,
time.
no social media back then, and again, that's the time when it was like on ESPN2, and not everybody had cable even. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people
Yeah.
had basic 13 channels, and you'd never see it. You'd have to be into it. So yeah, I think the growth has just been awesome, and like it's and like I said, it's so exciting when like a Lucas Hatton comes along. It's like, geez, look at this guy! Like, look what he's able to do. It's crazy.
It's really wild, like if you follow the amateur side, how many people are like, because people know like, yeah, Lucas Hatton this, or like I remember like Trey, he was an amateur, like he missed his pro card, Trey Mitchell, for like a few times, and I'm like, this guy could compete at World's Strongest Man right now, but he's not quite there. But like once he did, I was at the Nationals when he finally won and got his pro card, and then he was instant because he was so prepared. And I think
Right.
that's why especially Americans are so good now because there's so much depth in the amateurs. There's so
Yeah.
many people deadlifting like 900 pounds that you've never heard of. It's
Sure.
like where that was like unheard of a few years ago. That
Hmm.
like once you to get past that, you're gonna be like if you can get out of that rank as an American into that the Arnold that echelon, like you win the Arnold Amateur, you're ready. Like you've been fighting for your life for half a decade already.
How did Trey Mitchell miss? Because I mean, you watch him. I mean, he's so dominant. Like I said, I went to the Dead World Championships where Mitch Hooper won, but like close on his heels was Trey Mitchell, like 7 months out of a Achilles tear, like pretty close.
Yeah,
It was
he's
so. Like, how did he not get his pro card? It's just crazy.
Yeah, well, it was, years ago. He did eventually get it. He won amateur
Yeah,
nationals, but like he was just a little behind. I think it was just mental mistakes, really. Like that's the thing and the thing, like he like one of my good friends, um, he's from Texas and he was doing the local Texas. And he saw him at like his first show and he's loading a 400 something pound stone, like a teenager.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like,
Yeah,
like
he's young. You forget Trey's very young. Yeah,
he's
yeah.
very young, but he's been around for a while. But like he's 17 and that there was like a stone, like it was 110 degrees. The tacky doesn't work. And he's just like
Yeah.
420 stone, like back then.
I
Um,
mean, now that I'm thinking about it, like I remember, many times when Thor was rocking up like second or third at World's Strongest Man, it was just mistakes was the reason
yep.
he didn't win.
Mental.
It was like, he would have like an errant throw, a bag over bar or something, or just weird, like many times it was just
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
And he was in his early 20s, like coming in second to Big Z and finishing ahead of Shaw or vice versa. And he finally just kind of matured. So I guess that's part of it.
Yeah. He was like watching him. He was clearly the most gifted,
Yeah.
but that's the part of sports. It's not the gym, which people tend to forget watching this. Like they see this person pulled this, they pulled that, and they think like these numbers equate to winning. And it's like you still got to go out there and play the game. And that's why that's
Totally.
the difference between people like Pujanowski, Hooper, Magnus for Magnuson is they're better at the sport.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's not just
Yeah.
a
I was watching, I've seen every Hooper video ever made, but he was doing like an eating thing yesterday, and he was like trying to win the eating. It's very serious, and he's like, I don't lose. I don't lose. It's not what I do, and you can see that. There's a focus, and like, you know, him and just doesn't make miscalculations. Shaw was very cerebral, as strong as he thought about everything. I don't know about Big Z just seemed like stronger than everybody. Like,
he was big. He actually was I when I interviewed him, he did something that the main thing for his success is because he was competing since he was like 18. He still kind of does, like, which is
yeah.
one of the reasons I feel like he's the best ever, just because he was able to do it for 2 decades.
Again, I can't make a good argument against that. I just remember
Yeah,
Pujanowski. I remember
of
Pujanowski
course.
being Big Z. So, it's like
Yeah,
it was Big Z's first year, but still. It was,
yeah. But like he never trained a failure in training. So like all the like whenever you saw him hit a world record log, he told me like the most he done was like well below that for a triple. So I think that helped him. Like, and back then, because I was training back then, and all the talk was like basically kill yourself. Like every
sure.
training session, go in until you can't anymore. So I feel like that's what made him successful. Is then he was able to build instead of get hurt. Build because he had a very bad injury when he was young. The car flip, if you've seen it, he broke both his patellas. And I think since then he was just very like, I don't want to get hurt again. And I think he just staying healthy and having that is why he was so good success wise. And he was faster than people think. Like he just like there'd be like he had to make more time on like a frame carry, he'd do it. Like
Right. No, again, he like Pujanowski, he found another gear, a way to win. He just looked slow because he had such a gigantic gut. I mean, his
yeah,
gut was just like epic. It was bigger than anybody's, except for what was that the was it Welsh guy Gary Ross?
yeah,
When
Glenn
he
Ross,
Glenn Ross, when he would really show up out of shape.
Irish.
Irish, right. Northern Irish, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
But
you really make sure to say he's Northern Irish.
yes, 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 yes.
I've
But
talked to him plenty. Like, yeah,
but you remember that one year where he just looked like he was 500 pounds? I mean, he was
he
just so
was.
fat. Oh yeah.
That's the thing.
And yeah, and so but Z would he just looked slow, but he just win. And then he just again, he kind of like Hooper, he would always win whatever event. So he's always the last to go. And he had to do the most to win, and he would do it. And it was, again, made for TV, but it was very exciting.
Yeah, he's definitely good. So onto the
Yeah.
Arnold.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what I'm most excited about the past few years is the strong woman finally getting their due.
Hell yeah.
So
Hell
like I've I've been long championing the women. You got to put them up. I'm like, especially at like going to the Arnold, it just made sense because you'd go watch and all the men would go, and then there's all this downtime. There's like 2 hours to an event. I'm like, the women are competing in this hall over here.
Right.
Make them do here. Keep the people here. Like, think
Right.
about live
Sure.
sports. And like, it just took like, and eventually, and I think the biggest reason that happened is, Rogue basically like is in charge of everything now. Like
Sure.
they're just such a juggernaut in the industry. And
Yep.
with them coming from a CrossFit background, that's kind of how CrossFit is. So I think they
Mhm.
kind of
It
finally
just
did
makes
that
it actually makes sense. And then like, if you watched last year's Arnold, like the women's competition was much more interesting than the men's. Like it
way
really,
better.
like Angelica Jardine, another again to me came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Um,
to pretty much everyone, except if you've been at like amateur nationals, basically.
but like wow, like she was amazing, like it
Yeah.
was just it was absolutely incredible to watch. And and it was cool. Like I made my son watch it with me. And he was like, not that he should have known, but he was just like, wow, I didn't know women could do that. I'm like, yeah, look, like that's, whatever, a 300-pound stone. It's on her shoulder now. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, so it
Yeah.
was cool. Yeah. I totally agree. I think that the Rogue Invitation, that's why I kind of like the Rogue Invitational and the Arnold so much, is that you get both. And it's just like, why not have two great competitions? Why settle for one?
And well, yeah, and like I was saying, there's the downtime. Like, like if you want people to watch it, especially, even on a live stream or whatever, it makes a lot less downtime, which that's why people have always said, strongman can't be done live because, like at Worlds, like they do events. So I'm warning you before you go to Worlds in August.
Oh, I'm aware. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be a long day. Have an umbrella, be in the shade,
Well,
like
I got VIP, and we're only going for 2 of the 4 days, so
okay.
I'll be okay, and I'll be in heaven, and my wife and kid can wander in and out, and we'll be fine. Uh, but no, I mean, like it was, when I went to the World Deadlift Championship, like they brought Lucy Underdown, is it?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
uh, to lift 700 pounds, which was awesome. But yeah, like between men's events, why not have women events going? Like it was
Yeah.
and the crowd loved Lucy. It wasn't like any, because everyone there's a strongman fan, no one's accidentally there. And like they would have loved to stay an extra hour and just have the women eat up the time between events.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And a lot of time there'll be the highlight, like with Jardine last year at the Arnold's and stuff.
Oh, she was the best. She was
Yeah, the
incredible.
stone, this shoulder, I was like, it was just like Mateus. Like I was like, this is the other, but like a little more emotion because there's more emotion right now with the women because they've been training this hard for,
Sure.
decades, and they're finally like, oh, I'm finally appreciated for this thing,
Hmm.
they're good
Hmm.
at, and it's unfortunate that there's been so many strong women I
No
knew
way.
like when I was competing.
Kale, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
We had a technical. I heard you say finally appreciated for this thing, and then it paused.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's good now. Yeah, there's a little
Right
glitch
now,
in
yeah.
between. All right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like, unfortunately, there's women I knew like Kristen Rhodes and stuff that were always so good. At least they're bringing her to like commentate and stuff.
Sure.
But eventually, someone always has to pave the way and doesn't get the credit.
Oh, that's sports. I mean, that's that's
Yeah,
that's that's everything. 100% everything. But yeah, and the other thing about just to laser focus on Jardine for a second was she was so raw. I don't know if you remember this, but she was I think it was the dumbbell press, and like she gets it up and then she drops it funny and it bounces off the pad, and she like walks like over to get it. Somebody would have got it for her probably, but then she's like apologizing for making a mistake on stage because she'd never been there before. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
was so sweet to watch, I
yeah. It's
thought.
it's different because we've been competing in a level where you are expected to go get it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
diff.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
cool to
and it
see.
was, but you could just see this raw rookie like housing everybody. Like just she was amazing.
All right,
So,
so let's start off a elephant
yep.
bar deadlift. It's been around for a decade now, it seems. They just have to have someone pull 500. How do you feel about max deadlift? As like a more of a
Yeah.
fan, someone who's not like cynical, like you're cynical about cars and stuff, and it all seems the same. I'm cynical about strongman. How do you still feel about max deadlift events?
I prefer deadlift for reps personally, and I love like lift a car 10 times. I think that's why World's Strongest Man. Again, it's just not powerlifting. So to me, a max deadlift is a little bit of powerlifting, which but again, the numbers are so ridiculous, and I also I would like to see the sport move past the 501, the 505.
Me too.
And it's
Okay.
just, yes, somebody will do it. It'll probably be Thor. Um, but it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch. I always like deadlift for reps in competition. I think is just I don't want to say more fair, but like Thor's probably the only human on the planet that can pull a 501 without a suit, and so like Thor's gonna win. I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's the max deadlift's more predictable.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say this though, I like that there's no suit with the elephant bar,
okay.
uh, because I'm gonna stop last time I mentioned it, but at the World Deadlift Championship, Hooper pulled 470 as if he was pulling 300. It was the most ridiculous pull I've ever seen of 470. However, he's in a suit. Trey pulled it without a suit, but he pulled it just fine. So now for this competition, um, and also Andrade, I mean, I don't know how closely you watched it, but he got it up and then just fell backwards holding it. Like he lifted it.
Yeah.
Again, I feel he locked out as he was falling backwards. So
Yeah.
they didn't
Didn't
give it to him,
maintain
but
control though.
he just passed out. But
Yeah.
but
Which
he
is
got it up.
which is
So
more likely to do with a suit.
yeah, of course. Yeah, because you're just pressurized. So,
Yeah.
like, it's interesting. So, like, I think Thor definitely wins. And I
Yeah.
think actually Trey is going to get second place
Okay.
because the no suit factor. And then I think you have Andrade, Hooper, and Bobby Thompson scrambling for third. Hooper probably gets it just because he's a technician, and also he's bloody strong. The guy's just strong. I mean, let's just like he's like his legs are just bizarre, and his hip strength is just massive. So I think Hooper gets third, but if Andrade or Bobby Thompson were to get third, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, Bobby's always crafty at the Arnold. Like no one thinks about him going into it. No one notices him while he's doing it, and it's like, oh look, he got fourth place
Yeah,
overall.
I know. Yeah,
How? And you have to go back and you go, oh yeah, he did get. He never like. He just ends up in the top five, but more Arnolds than not. And
yeah.
like,
He's Mateusz, but he can't do the frame carry. You know what I mean? Like he's really good
yeah.
at so many like pulling and pushing. He excels at that.
And there's a lot of that at the Arnold. So,
There's a lot of that at the Arnold, and
and he does better in the stone to shoulder, like in the stone event than other people. Not 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 like he's not Kieliskowski it, but he is still going to get third place or something. Like he'll be the
yeah,
one that lifts it just here the most times versus the person that did it all whatever it is.
yeah. But so yeah, so if Bobby got third, not surprised. If Hooper
Yeah.
got third, not. And look, could Hooper get second? Yes. Like absolutely he could. I just feel based on Trey not using a suit at Giants Live and getting 470 up, I just think Trey, you have to say he's going to, get second place. Trey might pull a 501 also. Like he did pull
He's
470, and it wasn't the like he wasn't bleeding out of his nose and collapsing afterwards. He was like right afterwards, you know
yeah.
what I mean? So he had more in him.
Yeah,
So
the Arnold's interesting with it because they get to pick their own attempts. Where like at the dead, it's always set attempts, and that matters a lot more than people think. People they open too
explain
much,
that. I hear people say this all the time, and I like why is that so important? Why is that such an advantage at the Arnold's?
because you have to think more. Well, I wouldn't say it's an advantage. It's just a different. It makes it different, right? So like if you're because you have to pick your attempt, you can go in too early, and then you can get cold in between.
Oh yeah,
Um, like someone can then pick and do 2 more kilos than you versus like if you're at Giants Live and how they do it, it's just like we're doing 380, we're doing 410, we're doing 430. You just go up there and pull. There's no thinking. So it comes into the
right.
strategy again. So you have the people like, Hooper, talk about Magnus Ver, they're a little more crafty. Like we said, Thor made a mistake early in his career, and he like waited and like missed an opener on
Yeah.
it when you were young Thor. He might have won that Arnold or like got second, and then like he just completely. So that you can, and there's a lot of like I've been on backstage, for media at the Arnold. There's a lot of mind games. Someone like, oh, what's this person pulling? What's that one? And then like people, and it depends on how confident or worried you are. Your adrenaline can spike, and you get doubt when you're trying to do that. You might do you might then do a little 10 more kilos than you should have and miss it. And then like you
Right.
took this big jump, even though you could have probably pulled more than these other guys,
Well, let me ask
you
you a
lose four
question though.
spots.
Let me ask you a question, about staying warm. Like because I don't know what's going on backstage. Like, are there deadlift bars backstage? Or are
Yeah.
they like, okay, so if they want to, they could stay warm essentially.
You don't see too much of that. Mostly by the time like they're gonna do their warm ups and then try to time it to their first attempt. you know. And sometimes like the Arnold set up better. They're gonna have a couple bars and stuff. I've been to contests where it's like, all right, here's 800 pounds for reps, and like you just did a yoke and go. Like, that's part of the sport is knowing
Right.
how to not warm up basically. But they'll be doing some stretches, some bands to keep warm
Right.
in between. So yeah, there's just a lot more strategy involved when it's up to like you and your coach to pick the attempts
What
versus
what Oh, okay, yeah, go. I'm sorry.
doing set jumps, rising bar style.
Right. What do you think of for your predictions for this one?
Yeah, I think Thor has it. I'd be pretty confident he gets 501 or whatever it ends up being. I
I think
don't
it'll
know
be
how that.
501 because you get the money at
Yeah,
501.
there's no extra money for pulling 502, so you always set it up so then you can pull 502 next time.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because I think he does it, especially first event helps a lot. They haven't done anything else yet. I don't know if that then takes more out of him, that he's not as competitive in the rest of the contest. If he has to do 30 more kilos and stuff, I've seen that happen before. I think Thompson will be right up there. I think it's a good bet on Trey. I'd have to go back and watch his elephant bar because the elephant bar is a little different.
Hmm.
But he's a smooth puller, which helps. It's the elephant bar is worse if you're like someone who really rips the bar off the ground.
Singleton, like
Yeah,
Evan
it's been a
Singleton.
problem with him in the past where he's such an aggressive deadlifter. When it has that much weight, it's actually harder than a standard bar if you lift like that because it starts to like reverberate. It goes crazy. Um,
Good word.
something like that. I think you got what I was saying, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I like
I think
that.
it's a very important event for Hatton and Stoltman. I think,
Yeah, that's great because, again, where do those two, like, are they fifth and sixth? Are they seventh and eight?
yeah,
Like,
I don't think Tom will be down towards 8. It's hard to tell with Tom because he's so good at Worlds. He's been pretty good at some of the Arnolds and the Rogues, but like then sometimes he's not.
look, I
So
mean, if you look at this year's strongest man on earth, I think he was fourth, but if he
yeah,
would have, like, or maybe he was below fourth. But anyways, if he would have picked up that stone, if he wouldn't have done that stupid thing where he opened with 600, he
yeah,
would have picked up the 550, he would have been third place.
yeah.
Hatton got third because Tom made a really weird mistake.
The
So
ego got involved a little too much with stuff like
I
that.
mean, look, if everyone calls you the king of the stones for, half a decade, like, "Yeah, I'll just pick up the big stone. I'm the king of the
Yeah,
stones." And yeah, so um, and that's, I mean, I hate saying it because he's such a, like, just powerhouse, and he has the tools, and he's the size and everything, but like, you don't know what Tom is going to show up. You hope it's a good Tom.
you
You
know what
want,
Tom's going to show up to Worlds. It's everywhere else.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's just
he's
how he's kind of
amazing.
always been.
Yeah. So, I don't know. He can deadlift for sure. He's there. Everyone there is pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
but and
so
yeah,
and
Andre will do well as I think and I think there's something when you're these young rookies and you got a good deadlift, they're gonna be a little more cocky, and what do they have to lose?
nothing,
Go
nothing.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
first event.
And again, like he's boy, again, like it's just it's just where is Hooper gonna play? The disaster for Hooper would be to get like fourth or something, you know. Um, so and I just like, do you really see him like out of second or third? It's you know what I mean? Like even you could say like, well, Trey and Andrade and Bobby Thompson, this like does Hooper just doesn't really do that unless he's injured and doesn't seem to ever be injured. So
You know,
I
the thing I'll say about him is every time I've ever said, "Oh, he's gonna mess up on this event or something," he never has. So it's like you got to kind of give him that credit until he does. So it's like, yeah, I think he'll probably get like if I was to bet, if like my money's on the line, I'm gonna bet I'd put him at second just because
yeah.
you know
And go
second
back
or
and
third.
watch his 470 pull and watch his 505 where he
Yeah,
got 505 to his knees and
was very strong off the floor.
like that was wild because you had all the specialists there and they no one got it to the knees like that. You know, no one got it, but he you know, if you were awarding like, you know, partial points, he would have won that.
Yeah.
It was an absurd thing to watch. Like you know, and it was basically like, you know, I think he like turned to the crowd like, "Should I do it?" You know, and everyone or Oberst was like, "Should he do it?" Like, yeah, and he was like, "Give me 8 minutes." I don't know what he did, but he went back there for 8 minutes, and
Yeah, better left unsaid, whatever it was, usually
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah, yeah,
strongman.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
um,
Uh, what
um,
about for the women? Who do you got?
Underdown is in another league on deadlift. It just depends. She'll probably break uh, a record, whatever it is. Hopefully, they give her some, money as well.
Hmm.
And then it just kind of the women's really interesting because everyone like no one's like has every event together. Like the men like Hooper, he's just like has no weakness. So it really flip flops. Like this year, you've
Uh,
had different championships at everything.
except for Inez at the Rogue had everything dialed. Like
Yeah,
that
in that
was
show. Yeah,
in that show, you know. But like that was,
her
and again,
deadlifts went up a lot. Yeah, everything's she's doing really good.
yeah.
Um, Olga has been around forever. She's one of those ones that was dominating before it mattered. So it's good that she's still up there. She's always right up there. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I
Olga runs
think
a good deadlift. And Andre Thompson's there, right?
yeah, always a
So
good deadlift. So she probably
she'll
get
be second.
second, third.
Yeah.
Um, Rebecca Roberts and Jardine, I think their deadlifts are usually slightly like they're not poor, but like it's like there's kind of one of those events where it's like it matters how
Hmm.
they're going to do in it. And
You
Nadia
know, Robert.
Stowers is a powerhouse at deadlift too.
I'm sorry. Who's that?
Nadia
Oh
Stowers,
yeah, 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 yeah.
very good deadlift. So she'll be up there, even though she's technically like came from being a middleweight.
You know, Roberts has been training with Laws, so
Okay,
he's a very good deadlift coach.
he's just a
Under,
good coach.
yeah,
Yeah,
but like
she's such a raw talent, Roberts. Even though
mhm.
she's won everything, I still feel like she has more potential. Like it's one of those cases.
Yeah,
So
and I was watching like a leg workout with her and what Laws was putting her through, and like she might surprise some people, assuming watching a couple coaching sessions on YouTube can translate to the Arnold. Like she's like literally like no technique, like kind of like young Thor,
yeah,
um, and yeah, so I could see her doing much better than she's done previously. So,
totally.
but I think you're right, Lucy, like Thor, just dominates deadlift where there's not really any chance of being out of first place, barring a catastrophe.
Yeah, it's a nice way to open a contest if you're Lucy under under down.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, then the next event we have an overhead medley, which is a dumbbell, stone, log, then 195 kilogram log for the men, and then on the women it goes up to a 122 kilogram log, which is what 250-ish pounds.
270.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, yeah. But and the men, there's two logs, right? There's like the
yeah, it goes
actual
a
prostrated,
175 log, then a 195, which is
right? Trump log.
430. Yeah, but yeah, it's a medley in a row. So
So let me ask you, because I'm sure you've done
sure.
something like this. Like, how much? Because the weights of the dumbbell and the stone aren't crazy. Um, how much does that take it out of you for the log? Like just doing like
Um,
are those like warm-ups? Because they're not like max it's not like a max dumbbell press followed by a max stone followed by a max log. It seems it's like warm up, max log. Or am
yeah,
I
well, the stone is the weirdest one because stone, you can't really train, you don't know what the stone's going to be like. And some
right?
people really struggle with that, like the odd or the object training, you know? So it's like, so like that's something I think is going to help someone like Bobby. He seems to be good at stuff that helped him last year when they had like, it was like a stone, like load medley, but they had where you had to press one of them.
Yeah.
And he was able to get that. Remember, a lot of people had problems with that stone.
I think everyone was just dead.
Yeah, it was also the last event. That's true.
and
So
was it
maybe,
was it I forget last year because there's only 5 events last year. And it was 2 days, 5 events? Is
yeah, it
that
was
right?
two. It should. Pretty sure it was 2 days. But yeah, they look pretty dead. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, 275 pounds is not light for a stone. Like it's light to, but for it's not light for a press. But when you got your hands under it, it's like
Oh, dude,
could be very awkward.
I just filled up a 220 pound sandbag and moving it around my backyard, like I had to take a nap. Like,
Yeah,
oh, weird shaped objects are just like they kill you. So,
yeah,
but
and they could
so,
just
oh, sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, and they could just it's just you get the wrong. You feel like you're trying to go too fast because you're overlooking it, and then it just wobbles a little bit. Magnus doesn't give you that call. Or whatever. You go down, and then it just throws you off mentally for what you were preparing to hit. So it's more something like that.
Got it.
The dumbbell, I don't think's that big a deal. The stone, especially with Thor with the chest injury, I think this will be the most important, especially because it's so early. It'll
Hmm.
be kind of like to see where he's at. He could mess up a lot on it and only get the dumbbell and he could be off the podium. It's possible, or he could be like, oh yeah, he's back and could be on it. Like it's just
Yeah,
that
he
pec
pressed.
tear.
Yeah, I mean, but I think all these guys have had pec tears, and it's been like 18 months with him, right?
It
It's
still seems to be bothering him. If I was
Yeah.
just but like it's just he had a really bad one. Like people have like minor ones. I think Bobby's probably torn his pec 12 times this year. Like he's just
Right.
always. But like Thor's was like it was a rupture. Like there's a difference.
Yeah.
Like you can tell
So
when things throw him off.
yeah, I guess this one, I mean, it's to me, it's Hooper or Hatton wins this one. Hatton um seems to be unbeatable with pressing. And I don't know about rocks. I haven't seen him push a rock, but like
He'll be fine.
again, he just seems to like have the even more technical proficiency than Hooper, which is weird.
He does.
Uh, and I think like again, Hooper's a force of nature and all this stuff, but he seems to like train by himself, whereas Hatton is just coached, and is coachable. Uh,
Yes,
and
and he has a very good
again,
coach.
it seems like a very, very good, look, kind of a little shit stir, but it seems like a very good coach.
Yes.
Um, and so I don't know. I don't Hooper or Hatton, and then you have like Maxime. You have Stolman, who's an insane log presser. Maybe the best in the world for reps. I mean, you remember at the
Yeah.
road 2 years ago, like that. I still can't believe that performance. That was like,
Couple times he really surprised me on log, every now and then.
yeah. I mean, the Stolman brothers seem like they are just built for pushing logs. And again, not max, but just like repeatedly
Yeah.
doing it. They're really good pistons there.
Well, Luke had, I feel like, the best clean when Luke was trying for the world record. His clean was perfection. I feel like it was even maybe better than Z's clean at one point. Like, so then people won't realize in the log, especially when they're these, if it's like they have these big wooden logs,
Yeah.
that clean takes so much out of you. And if you don't get it, like, because I was pretty good for a lightweight log presser, but I didn't have like a strong bench or anything. But I had the position to press from. Like I get that clean, effortless clean, and I just have it where I'm in the right position to press, where it's not going to go a little forward or something, relatively. And I feel like, Luke's probably helped Tom with that and stuff.
Hmm. And is that, let me ask you, because to me it seems, because Tom's 6'8", whatever he is,
Yeah, he's big.
up there. So like I always felt like the clean part of it like really favored a shorter person. And again, in strongman, like 6'3" is short. Um,
Yeah.
and it like it just doesn't make a difference if your technique's good. Is that
Well, the thing about strongman is they might be 6'8", but they've put on so much mass that their leverages are still good. So
right?
I'm
I
five
got it.
six and like was like 200 pounds, but if and I'm training with Obi who's like 6'6" whatever, and he 430 pounds.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
still
yeah.
like he still might have better leverages than me for it, just because he's got
It's so
the
massive. Yeah,
girth. It's just you don't generally see people that are 6'5" plus that big that have actually
no.
filled a frame out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I got like small wrists and stuff, and like back then I was just walking around. It's just like everything's just packed on it. It's a lot easier when you're small. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like 200 pounds, and like being any bigger than this would be ridiculous. But like, for them, like they're able to just keep filling it out and keep filling it out. So
Sure.
their
Yeah, yeah.
leverages get better, and it kind of comes down more to like the individual leverages, like your torso length and arms, like versus just overall height.
Well, that's like Hatton, who, by the way, Hatton looks to be 5'6". Apparently, he's 6 feet tall, like legit
He's
6
just
feet tall.
built like a refrigerator. Like,
He's just yeah, he's this torso with little legs. He's
yeah,
really and
little thick legs, but
yeah, yeah.
extremely
Um,
thick legs. But
yeah, so I guess I would say Hooper, Hatton, 1 and 2, and I don't. Again, you give it to Hooper until he doesn't get it. But even if Hooper gets second place, that's just as effective because he just got second place on the deadlift. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
and then he,
um,
likely goes into, the next one in first. Trey up there, I think
oh yeah, yeah, I forgot about Trey. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
jeez, yeah.
he's just so mild mannered. It's easy to do. Like,
But he's an
like,
incredible presser. I mean, he's an
mhm.
incredible presser. And he's
Thing is,
incredible at the dumbbell. He's incredible at the
yeah,
dumbbell.
yeah. The
So
thing
I
is,
don't know if
sometimes he's just a
oh,
little too slow.
well, don't they have 2.5 minutes for this event?
Yeah, yeah.
So
So that it
so
favors people like him.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. Trey third. Trey over Stoltman for third for sure. And
yeah.
but Maxine is also like a monster presser. You know.
He can be on the log. He's, had a good Viper. I think he was pretty hurt for a few years there. I think he looked like he had like a contest went pretty well
Yes.
recently, like up in Canada
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So
And
hopefully he's back because he's an exciting competitor.
oh, I love him. I love him. He's so
Thompson will sneak in there,
oh yeah,
top five
Thompson. Yeah, yeah.
somehow.
This is actually really good, you know. And then also, isn't this Guardione character who I don't know much about, but isn't he supposedly a great like presser?
Yeah, I think he's good. I think he'll surprise people, how people did.
Yeah.
I think in like the carry and drag he'll do well also. I remember like I saw some videos of like the amateur shows him just moving in those kind of medley events.
Hmm.
Um, on the women's side, Inez I would pick for this one.
And as also I'd say Jardine. You gotta get
Yeah,
her in there. Like she's
the
tremendous
stones.
overhead, and the
Thompson's got a
stone.
great log.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Inez, Jardine. Yeah, Andrea. But
Uh,
Rebecca is also good. I don't know. This is
little long arms sometimes, but their log's like 122, 100 would be easy.
mhm.
Should be. And Melissa Peacock's a great presser too, as well.
Yeah, she's good. Oh, also Bellevue. I mean,
Yeah, good
she's
at
the best
dumbbell.
dumbbell
Yeah,
presser there is. And her I was watching her log training. It was like nuts. I again Stone, I think you're right, is a real wild card there. I just don't know. Um
80. Yeah, it's like 80. So yeah, like 170, 79. So it's like 170-ish pounds. It's pretty heavy.
yeah.
But
I
you
mean,
know,
it's also a funny position. Like you're
yeah,
not this.
it feels weird.
You're,
You can't use
you're
too much legs usually with it,
yeah,
and
because it's
it's
like a
hard to
handstand
stabilize.
push-up basically, not a press. Like it's
Yeah,
a
with
weird.
something that's kind of like you got to really squeeze it. Like you got to for that stability. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
you know
think
what? Peacock and Bellevue, like might be way up there too. It's
Yeah, I think
that's
it's a one. This is an event where some of the middleweight, like they're not middleweights anymore, but they came from that. They're like the
yeah.
180-ish pound division.
Mhm.
Will make up some points.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, Timber carry, 265 kilos for the women, 400 for the men. I don't think Hooper messes. I think this is Hooper, Singleton,
Maxine,
Maxime.
Maxine. Yeah. But
Um,
Hatton, like that dude can move. Like for a
yeah,
little bowling ball, he can move. Uh
it,
yeah, but
but going up the ramp's a whole other thing, though. It's
yes.
I've seen people that are good at it, and then sometimes they're not. So it just it changes the angle on your grip as you go uphill, and it's so big.
Yeah. And then, as we know, like, speed helps because what is it? It's 825 pounds in the hands. And like, the quicker you can get that done with, the better. It's
Yeah,
so like, yeah, it's this is one where Evan could win. This is one where Maxine could win, but Hooper's as fast as you can. He was 100th of a second, something ridiculous off of Mateus's record. So like yeah, Hooper number one, and yeah, I don't know, and
yeah,
then,
I
and then
agree.
beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah, Maxime should do good on this. Singleton, I think, made a mistake last year. I think he has the ability, so he probably learned from it. And I think it helps, like if you're like someone like Hooper, you've done it a lot, you're used to it, So I think it helps people. Big event for Trey and Bobby. Like
This
it just
well,
depends.
Bobby can't do it, right? I mean, that's the he admits whatever his ankles are like the worst design possible for going up that
For
ramp.
going up a hill. Yeah,
And then
yeah,
yeah, and then Trey has that weird injury. Thor, by the way, is very good at this.
yes,
He was second last year.
yeah. His grips improved a lot. It kind of it like early on, like it would hold him back, and I feel like as he's aged, his grips gotten really
I
good.
mean, that's the one thing that keeps getting better as you get older. Is your
Yeah,
my every other thing I can do is down. My grip is off the charts. Like
nice.
so. It's that old man strength. That's a real thing. Um,
But maybe even Gardine. They're, like he seems like he's pretty quick. You never know, like some of these people, but I do think the experience helps.
Experience, but
Uh,
also it's just so that's just it's an insane weight.
Eight
Like
hundred and eighty pounds, yeah,
I just it was 880. Yeah,
400 kilos.
I don't know Guardione's I just don't know how he is with like the real heavy stuff, you know what I mean? Like I look at him and he looks like a Rogue Invitational competitor, not an Arnold competitor, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But so does Maxime. So
Yeah.
uh
So did
and then
Hooper at one point. Really, like if you go by like the looks, because his legs are so big, but like upper body, he doesn't look like he's big, but
although he took
especially when
his shirt off recently, like he has inflated himself for this
he's
event.
gotten a lot bigger since his first year.
He keeps saying he's like 330, but I'm looking at him like you're 350, dude. Like you're
Yeah.
enormous. And then like another like Andrade, you know, I don't know. He might be excellent at this kind of thing, and he's just strong. He's like a 400 pound. How much does he weigh? Like 380.
Yeah, he's got to be up there.
So he can. I don't know. I just don't know. But I think he, like we said, Hooper's going to win, and then beyond that, yeah, Maxine, Thor, and
Evan, yeah.
Evan could win. Yeah, I feel like we're
I think
skipping a little bit, but
he needs to slow it down. He's been getting better at it, I think.
yeah, and he seems like just so pissed off that nobody ever mentions him, that like it actually fuels him a bit. Um,
Okay, so we'll just know. All right, we'll scratch it. Not mentioning Evan. Keep him going.
I'd love, dude. Nothing on earth would make me happier than Evan to win a big event. You know what I mean? A big
Yeah,
contest like that
yeah.
would he
One of
just.
them Rogue or Worlds or something.
Oh, I'd love him to win Worlds. It would be.
It'd
It
be
would.
very good for him, I think.
Yes. I don't know what he'd
But
do. He'd probably just disintegrate. But I think I'd love to see Evan Singleton win World's Strongest Man. I think
yeah, it's
that would be the
very
coolest thing.
likely.
Yeah.
The women's a little tougher on the. I'd have to go look at the last year's performances to really look at it. But yeah, I think probably Roberts right up there.
Yeah. Rebecca, I think Inez. will be good this year. You know, she
Yeah.
tripped and like smashed her face last year,
Gabby
but
Dixon has a great grip.
yeah, but does she move? I guess she moves, yeah. Um,
Not very far. You just
I
the
think
main thing is if you can hold on to it, you know.
yeah. I
And
think
theirs is
oh
a
go
bit
sorry.
lighter, 265 kilos, so 600-ish pounds.
Yeah,
Still a
sounds
little lighter.
I think Jardine will do pretty well on this. She can just move heavy weights. I think she did okay last year, and I just don't remember. I remember the men's was just like, I think only like four guys finished last year.
Yeah.
So it was, and only one or two. Next time we'll look it up, but yeah.
I'm always unprepared for this stuff. But
But and Andrea Thompson, I think, is pretty good at this. Um,
sometimes struggles with grip, but yeah, she can be good. Depends on how it goes
she's
as far
low to
as
the ground.
events.
So.
Yeah. The big jerk, I think Hatton's going to win by a mile, followed by Hooper.
Although, yes, but like, did you see Singleton like muscle up 550
I know
pounds?
with like steel plates,
I know it's a training video, but like that was ridiculous, right?
he's very explosive. And, a behind the back, kind of press is very different than doing it in front. Like you basically like you just have to be able to throw it up and have a good position to catch it, and that's where Hatton has it. Where I see a lot of the people, like even the Hooper's most recent one, where he got it, but it went out in front of him and he caught it out here, versus Hatton's catching it like an Olympic lifter
Yeah.
behind his back.
The thing with Hooper though, he's always doing weird angles overhead. That's the story of his career. He's always it's never technical, but he's got the stabilizing muscles and the tendon strength or whatever to
Yeah,
like
good core or
launch it
whatever.
at 45 degrees and then like muscle it up. So
Yeah, he's crafty.
yeah, yeah, Hooper, Hatton, and Singleton. But again, Stolman and Mitchell, I think,
Yeah, Trey could do some good weight.
because Trey just has the body weight. I mean, like, because what he's got to be.
Very strong squatter. And, he's got good legs, got good power. It just depends if you got the shoulder mobility to be able to keep it back behind your head.
Mm.
Um, it depends on that a lot.
But does body weight help out in an event like this? Because Trey's got to be 400 pounds, right? I mean, I don't really keep track of his weight, but he's just
Um,
massive. He's just a massive cylinder
it's
guy.
it's not going to matter as much as it would on a log, in my opinion, because like on like a heavy log, it's so far out in front of you, you have to like stabilize that weight. Where if it's on your back, it's just right in line with your butt and your whole core, so you can have like there's you know skinny Olympic weightlifters that can just from their back just throw
Yeah,
as much as Hatton's going to put over his head just because they're
sure,
so technical. Um,
sure.
you know,
And
like
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, where do you think Thor does on this? Is this like where is this where he's really exposed, or how much Peck is behind the back?
there should be less, and I
Yeah.
would think it would have been a better weight for him until I saw he like did not look stable at all on that one he showed on Instagram where he dropped it on his back.
Oh yeah, that looked painful. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to affect him injury wise. I've seen people do much worse, but like what it showed to me is like he had it locked out and couldn't hold it, whatever that weight was. I think it was 500-ish. Um,
And
so it's a,
Hatton's doing like 550, and Singleton
yeah,
did 550. I'm sure Hooper will do 550.
yeah.
Uh, so
What's crazy is like, years ago, like Misha Koklaev was doing like 600 on this lift in like seminars, like, so
the other thing though, Hatton like might be over 600. You
he
know what I
could.
mean?
His 550 looked like he could do it.
Because remember
He
he
could do
did
it. He
it
could
and
wake
then he
out of
held it.
up out of bed and do it.
Yeah, he held it for like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
And then so and I watched some podcast they did where he was sort of hinting that he'll do over 600.
I wouldn't doubt it,
No.
but I think he could do enough to. I don't know how they're going to do the jumps. That might matter,
Hmm.
but
Is this the same as the max deadlift? Like that you pick
I'm
your
not sure. I haven't seen the official rules on that. I know someone emailed them a while ago, but like, It's how it works timing wise is I dropped my kid off at school, got back home, and had like 15 minutes to set this up. Like
Oh,
we
I
planned it like
totally.
last night.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um
And then what about Bobby Thompson on this?
I think he'll get good mid-pack points. Like he's not gonna, he's still where then he gains points because someone like Thor might, do something and and he's just gonna keep Bobby at the Arnold's like he's like the tortoise, right? Like that's the way I see it. He's just keeps going, never falls down, and just all of a
Right.
sudden he's in fifth place overall at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
And
and then the other one was I was just thinking of someone. Uh, ah, like it doesn't matter. I was just Andrade, but or
I
no, Maxime. Like where does he?
he could be explosive on this. I could see him putting up some good weight. Depends,
He's, I,
he's had some shoulder injuries, stuff like that, tricep, I think. So it depends on how healthy he is.
but I like the year at Worlds when Novikov did the Flintstone press. Like, wasn't Maxime third that year on the
Yeah, he
press
was right up
behind
there.
Sultan? Like
Yeah,
he's got a good behind the back,
yeah, no,
and
he's
you know,
he's an explosive lifter, and that's the kind of body type where I'm saying like body weight isn't as important in the behind the back as it would be in like a log
right.
or something in the
Yeah,
front.
he's a light 320 pounder.
It's all relative though,
I
right?
know.
Like put him next to Trey. They're very different looking
I
people.
know. I haven't been around as many as you, but like when you're around strongmen in person, like, oh my God, they're just like they make, they're just big. They're just big. So
Yeah.
it's a
Big in
different
different
scale.
ways too.
Yeah.
Um, Women, Andrea Thompson's very good. Inez, I think, wins it.
Yeah. And this is
Same,
again just that like Hooper-esque mix of like big enough, strong enough, and just technical and driven and focused.
very, very focused. And she's been at this for a while, you
Yeah.
know, like she and really, and I think like she won real money at the Rogue Invitational, like more than anyone's ever won in Strong Woman.
Oh yeah, it was
So
like six figures,
like
right?
like
Or
more than anyone has ever won in their strong woman career in one
career.
day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I know. I
probably
know.
10 times what anyone in strong woman has won in their career in one
I
day.
mean, yeah, it was six figures if I
Yeah,
recall. It was good
which
for her.
is from when I started the sport, no one would believe you if they said a strong woman was going to win six figures in a contest one day, which is
Right.
super cool.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah,
know.
good for Rogue.
Does that make you more hungry? Does that make you less? It's
If you look at Hooper, it makes you a lot hungrier. Like
that's
keep
true.
winning, and
Stacking
I keep
checks.
looking at the videos of his house, and I'm like, man, like, good for him. That's a nice house. Um, so yeah, and it's hard. It's like Hooper. It's right now. It's hard to bet against Inez. The only thing I would say is, she dominated at the Rogue, and it's just a lighter event, and she's not. She doesn't have the she doesn't have the mass of like Andrea Thompson or Angelica or
Roberts.
Lucy or Rebecca. You know what I mean? They're just big people. Um, so I don't know at the Rogue how much like again for max lift. I don't know if she'll have
Yeah.
the raw strength, but who knows? You know.
Olga, she's from
Oh, and Olga.
Ukraine. Those people, they always have weightlifting backgrounds, like Novikov
Right.
stuff. So she probably should do pretty good in it. And of course, yeah, then the middleweights like Peacock, Bellevue, Stowers. Stowers has close to a 300-pound log press. Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting event for Lucy under down. Just such long arms.
Yeah,
Um,
she's a puller, not a presser. I mean, it's
yeah,
just
so the
kind of
two
her
press events
curse.
are important for her.
Yeah, yeah. It's weirdly kind of like Thor. You'd never think of Thor that way, but same boat. These
And
monster dad.
even Aaron Murray has a weightlifting background, at least practices in that way.
I forgot she's even in it. Yeah, she's another one.
Yeah, she's good,
She's all
explosive, and she could do well in this event. One of those where makes big points. Then we have a carry and drag is always a fun one, and I think it goes to Hooper,
I
Singleton,
mean, it's
Maxime, those kind of
yeah.
guys.
Although Thor supposedly is a really good dragger. And again,
He
it's
can,
one of
yeah, the body
those.
weight helps and the length with the drag. Depends on how heavy the drag is.
Yeah, like I like drag events. I'm having a hard time recalling any. This haven't been. I
Have
remember
not
like
been a lot recently.
Yeah, like I remember like Pujanowski was always like the dominant dragger, you know. It was so, but I think yeah, it's got to be Hooper. I bet Hatton's very good at this because it's it's loading and dragging, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Singleton's probably this is probably because he's another one. He's got to be 350, 360, right? I mean, he's got the body weight.
He's taller than you think. Like,
He's like
he's
6'6" or something.
yeah, he's,
He's a big.
long arms helps with the drag. You're able to get a lot more laid back and get that your weight going backwards. Um, Probably, tougher event for Trey, Bobby, those kind of body types generally,
Yeah, although Thor, I mean not Thor, Trey is 6'4", so
Yeah,
Bobby's not tall. Um,
no,
but
not
but
relatively.
yeah,
And I think, Gardine's done well in medleys at, amateur level, at the high level amateur shows.
yeah. This is the one event where I just don't know anything because I don't know really the
It's a tough
weight,
one.
and I don't know what are they even carrying, like logs, like do
You
you
have to
like
go back and
I
look.
right like stumps of logs or something,
I did get sent the official rules. I remembered halfway through at one
right?
point. Oh yeah. And see if I could find through like the 15 pages of the drafts for the athletes' rules. But
Right,
what's
right.
it say? Yeah, it's the timber trial.
Timber trial or
Yeah.
test. I saw timber test somewhere, but yeah, timber
Yeah, let me
trial.
see. I think I almost got it. But yeah, back of stage, we'll remove a long rubber mat. Yeah, there's a couple logs, light log, 26 feet, then a sled, then a heavier log. So you're moving like big logs like that. So that's going to help someone who has a big wingspan usually too.
And How do
That's
you pick
got.
up? How do you pick up this log? Does it have handles or is
I
it like just
haven't
like
s-
a
I
log?
haven't seen it, but I'd have to look. But
I
yeah, it
imagine it's
looks
just like
like.
a. Oh, sorry.
Oh, and I'm looking on the big jerk. They are like, it looks like they're set jumps
Okay.
up, and it says they. It's funny on here, they have it ending at 545 pounds, and they go higher attempts, like in with a question mark. They'll just figure that out. Anything higher than that, someone
Right.
wants to go for it.
I hope they don't do stupid jumps. Like that was what killed me at the Giants Live thing
Yeah,
was they went from 470 to 501. It's like, what about like 490? That would be a nice like
you
thing.
know, I it's one of the things where if they like the Giants Live, they call it a World Deadlift Championship, and I've been saying this for 5 years at least, where like no one's keeps getting 500 there, and they just keep trying to. They're setting it up like a record breaker, in my opinion, not a
Yes.
championship.
Yes.
Where it's like if it was a championship, you should let someone then like once they're past 470, like do you want to do 475 to try to win? Do you want to try to do 490? Like if you're actually trying to win, there
Yeah,
needs to be a separation.
but if you went 470, 485, 501, at least that would
Yeah.
make some sense. But that's a massive, like 470 to 501 is a kooky jump.
Yeah. You do
Especially
that if
because
someone's trying to break the record, not if you're trying to like see who has the best deadlift that year, in my opinion.
yeah, but it's just like the jumps. If I remember correct, it was like 454 to 470 to 501. It's like, why would you have this massive jump there? I mean, I know why, but like it's
Yeah.
just,
Okay. Yeah, this
I
says
don't know.
that the
Oh, go
logs will
ahead.
be lifted by grabbing a recessed 36-inch long bar set in like a strongman log handle. So there's like two handles in it they got to pick up
Okay.
and carry like this, kind of like they're gonna like battering ram a a castle. It seems like.
So that's just technique. So Hooper wins because he's gonna
Okay, yeah.
he'll
It's gonna be
he'll
more
he'll
technical.
he'll just figure it out. He's like
Yeah,
Novikov. He'll just sit there and figure it out, and like Shaw. You know what I mean? Like
he's
he'll
got
just
that strongman IQ.
yeah, yeah. So it's hard to say, but the drag, I don't know. Probably Hooper just because it's a moving event, and he's the king of moving events. Singleton and Hatton, but I don't know. Thor's probably great at this too. I don't
I
know,
think Thor will do well.
and maybe Stolman. This is another one where
Yeah,
like
it could be a good one. He's got
big
such long arms
and
and he's so tall.
like I remember at not this year, the Rogue in Texas 2 years ago, where Hooper just figured out the cheat, but I was Stoltman was moving faster with the bags. He just had his body in the wrong position. Like just
Yeah,
picking stuff up and moving with it. Stoltman was fast. So
yeah, he's got quick feet. Um, you know what? I always say, like, there's always an event at the Arnold where it's not the one people are thinking of, but it's going to be the most pivotal. because like you have the most chances of making up points. So like everyone kind of knows like the big jerk, your overhead's where it's at. How much better are you going to get in 12 weeks preparing for this? How much better are you going to get your elephant bar deadlift? But if you focus on this event, you could be seventh or third. Like you
Yeah.
can make, where it's like, if you're not the top, are you going to beat Lucy under down in the deadlift and make up
No.
that? No. Like your deadlift's only going to improve so much, but these events where you can figure out the technique and really practice it as good as you can have the most potential for flopping, like maybe not who gets first, but who ends up like fourth or third or whatever.
Behind the scenes question for you. Sounds like it's a log, but instead of the handles being this way, north south, they're kind of east west. Like,
Yeah, it seems like that.
how do you practice that? Like, what would if you got this event emailed to you, which you did, and you were competing? Like, what would like sandbags? Like, yeah, like
Um,
handles?
Probably like just picking up like like almost like sometimes like they have like big cylindrical farmers walks that have like
Yeah.
a handle in it, or you just go out in the forest, cut down a tree, put a bar through it. That's like how we used to do it back then. Like, you
Really?
know,
Wow.
oh yeah, we'd make events just for one contest. I
Okay.
remember I made a like no one made a Husafelt you could buy for nationals, and me and Oberst were preparing for amateur nationals, and like I just got a piece. I looked on the internet. There was like this mold. You make it this shape and pour it with concrete, and we just got like plywood and put some 2x4s and put some concrete in there and made ourselves a Husafelt stone
Nice.
for that contest. But we actually had it made by a concrete, like there's a place right down the gym that would like make our stones if they like put our label on it and stuff, and but we didn't realize the this like old like GeoCities website that had how to do this said it would be like if you make it this deep, it'll be this much weight, and it was to make like one that was like 420 pounds, and I'm competing as a lightweight, so I'm like, Obi, I
Yeah.
can't do the 400 like pound one. So I'm like, we like argued back and forth on like a middle ground so we could both use it. And like, I'm like, okay, if we make it this deep, it should be, 330 or something. And his was 400, mine was 300. I'm like,
Right.
but like, we didn't realize the concrete place that was doing it, they use heavier aggregate.
Of course. Right. How would you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know, like, oh, they use more rock than if I just got it from Home Depot. Um, and I remember I couldn't pick it up. Finally picked it up one day and walked it like 50 feet. And then like Obi got it weighed because he finally was like, then took it with him to a gym because I'm like, I can't use that thing. When he moved, he took it and he's like, he called me. He's like, I had that thing weighed. I was like, how much was it? He's like, 445 pounds. I'm competing as a 175. I was like,
That's insane. Wow. Good for you for picking it up. That's heavy.
that's why my back feels like it does now. I shouldn't have been
Right,
doing stuff like that. I should have been using the appropriate weights. But
right, right, right,
I'm
right.
still proud of it, but it's like it didn't serve
Yeah.
a contest purpose, like
It sort of did. That's crazy.
I know
Um,
I was like, okay, I feel better about that now. But and then yeah, I picked up the one at Nationals, it's 300, and I was just like chucked it in the air, caught it, like yeah.
yeah, no, that's great. I can't even. I mean, the closest analogy I have is I have a 100 supposedly 150 pound sandbag. My kid had a sandbox, so I was like, ah, great,
Mm.
I'll save money. I'll just take the sand out of the sandbox, and it just seemed like very heavy. It wasn't that much. It was 175. I actually weighed it. It was 175 instead of 150, but
It was
it,
wet.
that was heavy enough.
Yeah, it makes a difference if you think something's gonna weigh a certain amount. I'm like, it doesn't, you
That's
know.
445 is. I mean, that's just like that's a hard thing to bear hug and pick up. That's
It was
crazy.
concrete, so like every time our arms would be chewed up. Strongman's a lot nicer now, but
Yeah,
even than
but
like
the actual
2012.
the actual Kusafel is 420. Is that how much it weighs?
I think it's a little more, but it's like a real stone, so it's a little
Yeah.
smoother. It's going to be a little. Um, I had one of my clients just went and did it. I think he might be the lightest person that ever went around
Yeah.
because he's another lightweight 175-pound competitor. So that was pretty
I mean,
cool.
yeah, that's great. I mean, 175, man, like that was seventh grade for me. So that's, That
Well,
sounds good.
none of us weigh 175. You know, you cut weight, but like, so I'd be like 190, 200.
Right.
Um,
No,
but yeah,
I'm sitting at like 260 right now. I gotta
yeah.
lose
I'm
weight.
not far from you. I'm out of shape now.
I'm in shape. I just like I lost a lot of body weight and then I was like, yeah, like I could be stronger. So I just really started like lifting and eating. And yeah, I'm sure you've had this where it's like, man, my dryer is shrinking all my clothes.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you put on 20 pounds, dumbass. So I
yeah.
gotta I'm March 4th, I start a big cut. I start a big cut.
Nice.
Yeah.
Trying to do the
All right.
same.
Women with this, oh, I
It's
mean, Rebecca.
tough. Yeah,
Rebecca?
I would pick Rebecca for it. I've seen her at Drags, Giants Live. She's fast. She's big.
Jardine. I'd say Jardine too. And
Definitely.
I think also, again, just her performance last year, and maybe I know this is true of some athletes, like we talked about Stoltman, but like the format of the Arnolds really seemed to suit her. Um, and she's got body weight and she's young and she can move. And we know she can pick stuff up. And yeah, I'd say Jardine or Rebecca. Although maybe,
Yeah.
this is one where Lucy maybe, long levers and all that.
Yeah. Um, Dixon, maybe on the definitely on the drag. Depends on. I'd have to see how big the timber carries are, how bulky and stuff they look. But
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe it's one of the events that might be a test for Iniz.
Mm.
Possible. Gives up a little body weight.
Yeah, I could also see her winning it. So,
Yeah, I know. That's why I like watching the women right now. I feel like the women's completely unpredictable. Also, Olga is always good at fast events, and she's been
Olga,
around
I mean,
forever.
Olga at the Rogue in Scotland, like solid second place. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
just
she's
she was
always.
right there every single event, every single event. She was incredible. So yeah, it's yeah, I don't know, but I think heart of hearts, Jardine on this one, and I really just kind of like her, so
Yeah,
she wins. Although
hard
yeah,
not to.
yeah, she's great.
Um, Stone to shoulder. It's a tough one.
Stoltman, I don't know. That's the wild
Trey.
card. Yeah, Trey. Although Hooper, like it's technical, like it's not just throwing stones around. It's like there's a this and a switch. You know what I mean? There's a technique. And Hatton, like, you
Yeah.
know, did you see the video with Hatton and Martins showed up and was like showing him like technique on stone to shoulder?
Hmm.
He seemed to
That's going to
like
help getting coached by Martins on that, who's probably the most technical. Like Mateus might be the best, but I think on that event, Martins is the most technical. Like I saw Martins since he was a 220 pound amateur go through. So like to see how I'm like, he knows what he's like. He's
yeah.
he's maximized what his body was able to do the sport. Like so, he's very smart.
Mhm.
So yeah, just that one coaching session with the right person can help a lot when you're at this level. Just that little edge. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like Hooper, Hatton, and Stoltman,
yeah,
just because he's Tom Stoltman and it's a stone and it's not a
Thor's been
crazy.
good at it in the past.
I mean, yeah, shit. I mean, remember Thor at the Rogue with I mean, totally different stones, but like that was kind of the most impressive strongman thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
Was Thor's weird stone run was like unbelievable, like just
yeah.
like strength.
I'd
But
say
again, it's just so technical and like his coach, I don't think his coach is a powerlifting coach. He's not
yes.
a he's not a strongman coach. Um, so I don't know. This is where I see like Hatton and Hooper really having an advantage.
It seems like not that he's bad at it, but the one thing where like people can make up ground on Hooper's stones. But again, this isn't like just an Atlas stone. But at this point, how much does he need to do is possible? You don't know. So it's like,
I bet you he's pushed. I bet you that I think my podium is Trey and Hatton and Hooper, and I think based on just Trey what he's able to do, and look the frame will hurt Trey, But I think he'll be pushing, and I think Hatton will be pushing, and I don't think the frame will hurt Hatton. So I think he'll have to do a lot. That said, I've been watching Cooper's videos. He has a brand new stone that's never had tacky on it, and like the guy's unstoppable, like
Yeah.
so. You know, I don't.
Trey never trains with tacky, almost ever.
Yeah, I like
And
Trey's like no suits, no no tacky, no anything.
it'd probably be better if he used some of the advantages. Sometimes that might have been the difference between him, getting that second and that first. But he just has that like that kind of mentality where
Mhm.
he wants to do it a certain way. Versus like, someone like Cooper that, or Novikov, they're gonna like figure out every little possible angle.
I mean, I've seen Hooper say a million times, like, anything that really gives me an advantage, I'll do,
Of
and
course.
and that's very Brian Shaw, that's just it was people, you know, I'd say Hooper does a better job than Shaw did. Like I remember many times when, like Shaw wouldn't do a lift if he didn't need to. And Hooper is starting like he's injured himself now doing that, but he'll still do the lift for like the fans or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, Probably should stop doing that as he gets older. Um, but yeah, I just think Cooper will find the little thing that no one else sees or whatever. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think Trey Hatton and Hooper on the stone, Stoltman in there.
Stoltman.
This is one where Maxime is probably being slept on a bit. I have no idea how Evan would do on this.
It's hard
Um,
to say. He could just, he's so explosive. He's obviously strong. He's had some in the past bicep injuries, which doesn't help as much with the non-tacky stone.
but
You know,
but again, explosive's great
it
until
is.
moment, and
Right.
then
Then you
that's
throw
it.
it
That's
behind your
it.
back or whatever. Yeah.
Hit yourself in the head. Right? I mean, he's
Yeah. I think on the women, you got to go to Jardine.
oh yeah, 100%. Until beaten, but again, it's a smooth round thing, which I've never lifted an Atlas stone, but I imagine it's like way different than a natural stone. Yeah, because
It
there's no
is.
handholds.
It's generally easier. It's easier to train for. It's going to be more predictable because they can actually, simulate it.
Yeah,
Unlike, every natural rock's a little different. It's like you move it here, and then
yeah,
like you got to find it. Um, but yeah, Inez pretty good. Roberts good at these kind of stones. She has a
sure.
long way to take it up there, but you know,
Yeah, yeah. But and then Inez, you said Inez, she's good. What about like Andrea Thompson? Like I feel like she's struggled with stones, right?
yeah, I think that's one of the like that's she's very good at like yoke, pressing, deadlift,
Lifting, yeah.
and stones, and sometimes grip tends to be like where they're a little not as confident of events.
Yeah.
But she's been around a while. She's been competing for a long time now.
Yeah.
So she should do good. But I think Olga's been around forever. She knows how to shoulder a stone.
I'll go sneak in and be second. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll just get second, just like how Bobby
Yeah.
does it. Like gets up and fourth. Olga will be like, "Oh, you're worrying about these people." Then they'll like one person will have a bad event, and it's like, "Oh yeah, Olga got second place overall."
And you forget if you're fifth at every event, you're fifth. Like that, and that's
Yeah,
pretty good at this show.
5 points, 5 points every time.
Is pretty good at a show like this because
It
this
ends
is
up being equaling out to getting like second then eighth.
yeah, or yeah, and like or Trey, and I hope he doesn't, but like he could zero the sled carry or the frame carry,
Hmm.
which just is it's tragic, but it's what and again this is I mean I'm not none of this is new, but this is why Hooper is Hooper because he's never out of third. He's just first, second, or third in every event, no matter what, forever now. And yeah, so
And what helps him is like even if stones are like his Achilles heel relatively, they're last. So you're in
yeah.
control at that point.
And not only are you in control at that point, he does so much I hate the word cardio, but he does so much like training and he has such work capacity that he's not winded at the end.
No.
Like if you had said go run a kilometer he'd be the only one who could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh, so he's
makes a big difference.
and yeah, and he just doesn't seem to have like so far he hasn't had like an injury that like limits him in any way. So yeah, I don't, I mean, I think, you run into the maxim that, the flame that burns twice as bright burns only half as long. So I hope that, this keeps up for him. But I think you have to say Hooper's going to win the show. Because he's the only athlete that was, I think, really in every event we talked about, it's like, with the exception of deadlift, he could win every event. He
Yeah,
could win all five. And he could be second on deadlift. So
yeah, he's going to get top three in probably every event. So if you do that, you win a show. Like unless someone
yes.
got first in all of them, that's the only way that it happens. And I don't see that happening with any of the other competitors. The women's is just it's so hard to pick a overall winner. There
I
hasn't been like
go,
anyone who like did one show then won the next one. So
yeah.
um,
I think Jardine just because she won it last year, and I don't think she has a bad event in this one. And I think like it being on the heavier side helps her out. Um, I I believe her deadlift is really improved. I think last year, like I think she just picked terrible weights, and also
she's
like
underconfident.
yes, yes, and I think now I think she's better coached now, and I think she'll do really well on the deadlift this year. Because I think she said like her third attempt was her PR, but it was like she probably could have PR'd for more. She just like didn't think she could do more.
Yeah, she
And
was very new at that point, and she does have a great coach, the person I've
yeah,
known for like what 20 years at this point,
oh wow,
Zach McCarley.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think it's hers, and I think Inez and Rebecca.
yeah, that's fair. Olga
Yeah.
in there somewhere, maybe it's possible.
Yeah,
It's hard
Olga.
to
Yeah,
think of.
somehow Olga. I keep
Yeah,
forgetting about her, but yeah, yeah, yeah,
she's just always there though. But yeah, I do think Hooper wins it overall. Hatton will be on the podium. And I think then it depends on if Thor doesn't make mistakes or Trey does a good frame carry, third and fourth.
What about? Oh, that's interesting. So Singleton. I think Singleton is. You said there's always a wild card event. He's just the wild card
I feel like he
because
has been for a decade too.
if he would put it together, right? Like his deadlift is good enough. He could be like fifth or fourth on deadlift. He could.
Hmm.
Um, and then he could be 2-3 in every event. He could win the big jerk. He could I don't know, win the other overhead. He could win the drag. I don't know. So like he could surprise people.
Yeah,
Um,
I do think he's one of those athletes. He's got all the talent. You look at his build. Would never be surprised if he won a show,
yeah,
wherever it is.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's fair. Let me ask you this, and I know we've gone probably longer than you want to, but Hooper being as dominant as Hooper is, so like 22 out of 23 podiums or something insane like that. Good for the sport, bad for the sport, and
I
with your experience.
think I think overall it's but you need that rivalry, right? Like you need that Brian Shaw versus Sadrunas. They don't really like each other. Think about any time the sport's exploded. There's been two people that literally might fight each other in the future. Like
I didn't know Shaw and Z didn't get along. That's it. I didn't know that.
no,
Oh well.
there's interviews of him back in the day. I'm not like speaking out of turn because like
Yeah,
that well, even Shaw said he always pushed him,
yeah.
because they'd like, you know, Z would win worlds and Shaw would, and or they'd win the Arnold. It was very back and forth. I don't think Z. I think Z just went out there and lifted personally, if I'm going to look at it objectively. But I think
Sure.
it really drove Brian,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I think as like a fan standpoint, if the sport was as big now, that would have been a big thing because like all the Americans are rooting for the American. Like it
Yes.
helps Wise. The Eddie just going in there and just talking shit to everyone that
Eddie
has a
was very
pulse.
much like Singleton. Yeah, like, it was
But then, but he he'd go out and hit a record or win, when it mattered. Like, and like I feel like, Hooper needs someone that he needs like if like Tom was like mean and they like really didn't like each other, I think it helps the sport. I
I
think
mean, I,
Hooper is good for the sport overall just because he gets the media side.
hmm
He's going to put
No,
himself out there.
it was
You know,
incredible. Yeah. No,
he's
I have.
doing everything he can to get his name out there and to be in the spotlight. He's making silly reels and whatever, whether you like it or not, he's doing it. Like,
Exactly. It's funny because I just Evan for some reason like he needs a big win to get the traction, but like I'm just a big Evan fan and he talks so much shit about Hooper. Like it's kind of like he's always shit talking, which is
that could be a good one. But I feel like Evans talked so much shit for so long. It's kind of like, oh, he's just talking
yes.
shit. It doesn't, what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
almost diminishes it a little. But
but he's like someone was asking him about like are you going to split jerk the big jerk and he's like no, I'm not a pussy like Hooper, and
yeah,
like it's great. I just is it falling on deaf ears because he hasn't won a major one. So I think I think you're right. Because the famous one now, and I again I didn't think anything of it at the time, but it really had an impact was Eddie versus Thor.
yeah.
That was crazy in retrospect. At the time, it was like I don't know. I felt Thor had a point, but you know, that's
There's a
me.
lot to all that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you offline about that.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll talk. I don't have any. I'll burn every bridge at this point. No one,
Yeah.
I'm part of out of it. But like, yeah, it was good for the sport though. Um,
Right.
I
So,
think
okay, well, since I don't know how many more of these I'll get to do with you, what
whenever.
the Eddie Thor thing, like, did Thor have a point? Because let me back this up.
In what way?
If you go back and watch like the Magnus Magnuson era of strongman,
Yeah.
like there were no down calls, there was no form,
No.
there was no like you go. There's one where they're on a beach and they got like a keg of rum or something or pirate's treasure, and they're lifting this thing, and I mean like the calls were that's why I laugh when that Magnus is a strict coach. Like there was anyway, so the whole idea of like double dipping to me was like that's a powerlifting thing. That's not a strongman thing. Although the sport has changed in front of my eyes. Now strict calls are a thing. Ed Cohn, calling out people's thumbs opening up on a deadlift. Like
I didn't like that. But yeah,
that
the
was
Shaw.
terrible. That
No.
again, and you're bringing powerlifting into a sport that grew in a lot of ways as a reaction against how dull powerlifting is and how rules based.
Yeah.
Um, and so anyways, so the Thor with the I think that was the genesis of the Thor Eddie fight, right?
Oh, it was before that. Like they were,
Oh, okay.
but it definitely like went past a line that couldn't be mended at that point. You know what I mean? It didn't start there as most things do.
Okay.
You know, um, but yeah, like talking about the Magnus, like that kind of era. I wasn't obviously around back then, but it seemed like back then all of like the calls that were good or bad were edited in post. You know what I mean? Like it was like, they were just out there and they're like, oh, this person did that, which is
Yeah, I
actually
mean,
how Worlds is shot. Like all the reaction, like it's especially there was at one point where like Colin's the referee, like on Colin Bryce is like the referee, like on the field, and then he's in the booth doing the play-by-play.
right,
I'm like,
right.
oh, and they're gonna give it to him. I'm like, you're gonna give it to him, like,
Right, right. No,
um,
I know, but like again, if you watch these early era ones, like there was just it was what it was. It was you got a bunch of people from different sports together, and who was the strongest of them.
yeah, they
And
basically tried to figure out how to make a TV show
yeah,
out of lifting things. It
yeah,
was it's the strongman is in the modern era, not like circus era. And we're talking about World's Strongest Man started the modern era of strongman. It's a very interesting sport where it's like if like Survivor or Big Brother then became like a legitimate sport. It's
yeah,
like literally a reality show, like people decided to make it a sport around a reality show is
Right.
basically, so it was very loose, and it's, some people like the looseness. Then Brian's more rule based,
Yeah.
like he wants it very, do it this way. And then you have other people that are just Oberst is just going to go out there and he's like, I'm going to chug a beer and lift a log and not think about it. Um,
Me, I mean, look, that's what I love about it.
Me too.
I love like the spectacle of like he picked up a transmission and now he's running around carrying a transmission. Like you don't judge technique on that. Like, oh, you didn't pick up the transmission correctly. Like
But there's a best way to do it is the fun thing, and you can figure out the best way to lift up a transmission, which is funny because, I grew up cars, working on trucks, pulling engines out and stuff like, always been into automotive, grew up on a farm, working on old C10 trucks and stuff like that.
oh,
And
cool.
like Worlds was in like 2020, they had all these like axles and stuff. And I had
Yeah.
people like, "Hey, Kale, you like cars? What is like? Is this part of the differential going to be heavy?" Like they're asking me because they never tested. Like, like,
Right. I thought that was great.
I
I
like
love,
that one. Yeah,
yeah, I thought, and that's to me, I think that's why Worlds is, I know it's popular now to like be like, oh, World sucks. I still
it's
love.
always been that way. If the every hardcore fan since there's ever been anything outside of Worlds has always said Worlds is ruining. Like, it's always been cool to hate on Worlds for some legitimate reasons. But
Yeah.
what I tell people is Worlds is there to introduce people to the sport. The Arnold is once you're bought in, it's like a more pure, like, let's see who like can lift like something insane. Worlds is like a fun, watch it. You like, it looks like it, it's television. They make good TV.
Yeah,
And I
it's good
think
TV. But I love the again, like I know the events like are cockamamie, but like, running with sandbags in the ocean. Boy, you got to be pretty strong to do that. Like I love moving events. I
yeah,
always
me too.
like honestly, um the Farmer's Walk is probably my favorite strongman event. Like I just think it's the first I remember as a kid, like, and this is before Magnus era, but it was like they were picking up these like I don't even know what they were like scuba tank cylinders or something, and they were like filled with concrete, and they were I remember they're 252 pounds each, and like the idea of like running around with 500 pounds was just absurd to me. Like
Yeah.
what?
So,
That's
you're in automotive journalism, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you do like an honest review of something sometimes, but there's also like an entertainment value to it, right?
Sure, that's
So
the mix.
like
You got to figure out.
the
I
mix
always
of it.
say it is. Sorry, I keep cutting you off, but I always say that like car journalism, especially comparison tests, it's like being a baseball beat writer. It's like the Yankees beat the Red Sox 3-2. Make it interesting.
Yeah.
You got to you got here's what it is. This car does this. This car did this. Now you got to tell a story, and that's the art of it is like make it interesting because
Yeah, but how many people watch, there's one end where it's like the whistling diesel of the world. And then there's, people like you and others that are like mixing, some of the stuff in between and actually know and like can rattle off all the statistics and actually know the difference on how this car handles. And then there's just like, a factory driver who's like, no one would want to ever listen to them talk, but they're going to give that
well,
exact data. That's how I look at strongman with worlds and stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, exactly. And it's funny that because to me, um, like the factory, like you need some of that factory driver, but
Yeah.
the things they're talking about, like where they're like, oh, you gotta decrease the roll stiffness. Well, it's like, well, why? And so in other words, you have a person. It's like when doctors talk to each other. They actually speak it an argot, a different language, and you can like, oh, I understand that was a word. You have no idea what the context is, and I think maybe with strongman there's some of that, but I don't know. I think like the more powerlifty it gets, because I still I used to try and power lift. My bench
It's
always
so
was,
boring.
and my I just had no bench. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Like Like I was, I probably had at the time, which I don't know, that doesn't tell you anything these days, but like I was probably pulling like around 600 pounds, and I think I did 315 once, and I would have given myself three red lights for it. That was all time greatest. Won't ever try it again. But it's boring. I don't, and also a lot of times when they get red lights, I don't understand why. And it's just some
Yeah.
technical what?
So yeah, the powerlifting is definitely towards like the factory driver side. And then
Yeah,
some people really love the specifics, and like I've met people that like went, that competed good in strongman but couldn't deal with the inconsistencies, like how their brain works. Maybe,
sure.
a little extra, their autism swings that way versus ours like towards pickup rock, like, whatever it is, like um I've always liked that it's different, it's
Yeah,
new. That's what always attracted me. That like I also feel like I know doing it and being, a lightweight, um, I had to figure out how to maximize my leverages, right?
yeah,
I don't have Trey's build. Like, obviously, he still is good and technical, but like, if
yeah,
something literally might weigh, 4 times as much as me, like to do a yoke, like,
yeah.
you gotta, if my position goes a little off, and it did a lot because I wasn't good at that event, but, I liked, and then like, I always say, like, then working on a car, I'm like, ooh, I have this, Dana 60 front axle I took out of my Suburban. And I'm like, I think I could pick that up, and those are heavy. Like, and I'm like, you're just the you know use this weight here, leverage it there. It's just kind of fun. That's what I did in my 20s. I don't know, now approaching 40, I'm not going to try to move a transfer case by myself anymore. But
I mean, that's why in some ways, like I think I shouldn't say this because I'll rapidly change my mind after next week. But like my favorite of contest these days is the Magnus Vermagnuson Classic because it's just what World's Strongest Man used to look like.
very
Um,
old school.
it was in a weird spot. They're outdoors. And like, yeah, it's cold and miserable. It was always hot and miserable, when I was watching Worlds. Now it's hot and miserable, but it's in like Florida or California. It's not as exotic. And yeah, and again, it's usually like, I don't know what Magnus is like 10 guys and like seven of them, I can't pronounce their names. It's like
Yeah.
very, very like, Star Wars Cantina.
It's a lot more
So
culture. It's like a lot more global because they're getting like the best. And he's very much into like I need the strongest guy from each one, not like the 10 strongest guys total, which is how Worlds kind of used to be. Is a
yeah.
fun one.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd like one of these years. I'm going to go out and watch it. I've been to Iceland a few times. It's just fantastic place, and
yeah,
it'd be a
that'd
fun
be
way to spend
awesome.
it.
So for these guys are oddly shaped, right? So
Mhm.
most cars are out of they're not fitting in
Yeah,
most cars we'd want, like we
no.
dream of. So like, what's the best? Like, let's say you're gonna as a strongman, like you're making Mitchell Hooper money, and you still want something fun. I got to throw out one silly car question out there.
Oh well, pickup trucks are the obvious choice because there's a lot of room in there.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think I'm stereotyping, and I don't know all of them, but I think most strongmen do seem to drive pickup trucks just because when you're over 6'3", not a lot. You'd be surprised who could fit into a 911.
yeah,
Germans and especially German executives tend to be extremely tall. I have a friend who's 6'9", and he drives a modern 911. He can't get into an older one.
no.
But ever since the 991 came out, they can take basketball players. So I think that would
The
be the
width though, the width. I've been I've been in cars with Obi. Like he's sitting in my
okay.
passenger seat, and like,
Yeah. Well, he's also huge. I mean, you said he
yeah,
was
I
six
know.
six. I think he's 6'8", by the way.
Yeah,
Uh, he's abnormal, but like I'm thinking of like like a Hooper size guy. Like Hooper,
Hooper could fit. Yeah,
he drives a Model X.
okay,
Tesla Model X. I'd say a Rivian. I think I'm a. It's a
of
pickup
course.
truck. And they're just terrific.
So,
Um,
should you get like a Urus if they want to just like buy something completely that doesn't make any sense at all? Like, like
a,
we're
Ur-
making poor decisions. Like,
a Urus would be great. I actually tried to get Hooper a Urus for World's Strongest Man, and Lambo just didn't get it. I'm like,
Hmm.
this guy's gonna win. This is the year he won, and I'm like, because this is when I was talking to him a lot, before he won anything, he would talk
Sure.
to me. Um, he's a very nice guy. He's just busy. But I was legitimately trying to get him one, and they just weren't getting it for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think although an Oris, like they're roomy, but they're not that
Not that
roomy.
much. Yeah, because they're very angular.
I'm just thinking the width. They're not.
Mm.
They're European. You know what I mean? Like they're just not that wide. That's where American trucks, like a Raptor, is actually probably or what was
Raptor
it?
R,
Yeah, but Raptors and then the T-Rex, which became the whatever it is, RHO,
RHO, or whatever.
M high output. They have a 7 inch widening. They're widened over a regular
Yeah.
Ram 1500 or Ford F-150. They actually widen them by 7 inches, and that shows up in interior space. So for a Trey Mitchell, like yeah, Raptor, he also looks genetically engineered to drive a Raptor. So
Trey
um,
was driving like a 98 Chevy pickup like at one point. Like
which isn't that big. Like
no, I've had them. They're not big. Like
yeah,
yeah,
uh,
hopefully he can win a show and he can move up to something like a Raptor. That'd be good for Trey. He's out in Texas, long distances. Makes
yeah, and
sense.
Raptor Texas is Raptor country. I mean, it's perfect for him.
Yeah,
So
nothing better. But awesome. It was super
yeah,
fun doing
dude, yeah,
this. I know it went long, but there's a lot to talk about. But yeah, do it again or
yeah.
whatever you want. We'll figure it out.
I'd love to, man. I mean, I hope people like it. I've never done a strongman podcast. I've dreamt about it for years. So it's super fun.
I appreciate you taking your time, and
Absolutely.
we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, follow Johnny at at Jonny Lieberman without an H
On
on
Instagram.
Instagram and all of that. He's got his various podcasts, Spike's Car Radio, The Inevitable. If you like electric cars like I do, and yeah, just all that. And if you're a strongman out there, maybe he can hook you up with a press car. Someone will actually get it, huh?
I tried.
Figure it out.
I don't know why I went for Lambo, but I was just he was like, "Could you get me a tourist?" I was like, "I'll try, man. I'll try." And then the joke of it was he won, and I was like, "Hey, idiots! Like you could have given the world's strongest man a Lambo
Yeah,
trophy."
there's that. That's
And
better press than most of these people they give them to, right?
yeah, totally. It was
It's
weird.
hard to always get these companies to figure it out. I remember trying to get like deals for shows for Strongman like back in the day, and they're like, no, like,
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
but like, there's so many viral clips they make, like it.
Yeah, who it was. I was trying to get. God, I can't remember who it was, but we just given Ram Heavy Duty Truck of the Year, and I was like, hey, you should give one to. I'm gonna make it up like Brian Shaw,
Of
like
course.
that would be great. Great, like put him in a commercial, and they just were like, who, what are you talking about? And I'm like,
Yeah, speaking of,
the world's strongest man, like
uh,
world's strongest truck, like
yeah, like what's more American? Show this guy who's like 6'8", 400 pounds with like
yeah.
biceps
Who,
bigger than anyone's thigh, standing
who
next to like a
literally walks
dually
around with
ram
an
or
American
something.
flag, it'd be
Yeah.
perfect. So
Even when he
they,
doesn't have one, it just trails behind him.
yeah,
So,
and they just didn't get it. They just were like,
yeah.
what? Like what? And I'm like, no, it'd be great. So,
Oh, well.
but I always wanted to do that. This is, I'll leave it on this. Back when I was doing more car videos, I wanted to do a regular truck versus a heavier truck competition, or like explainer. Like this is an F-150, this is an F-350. Like, what's the difference? And I always dreamed of getting like Martins just because he was based in LA, and
Sure.
I I'm a fairly strong person, like, and I do something, and then Martins would like do something 3 times as strong, or 10 times as
Yeah.
strong, and be like, that's the difference between a regular and a heavy duty, but it
Yeah, it
never.
takes twice as much fuel. Like just like
Well, there's that, but
it's just like the truck.
the difference between towing 7,000 pounds and 40,000 pounds, like
Yeah,
that's a big difference. So
sure. You
strong
both
man,
tow different trucks. Awesome.
yeah,
Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for
I mean, you
listening.
too.
Kale Beck, and tune in next week.